In this module, we focus on proving resilience, not just claiming it. You'll see how DORA turns vague testing into concrete expectations. What must be tested, how often, and how to prioritize critical services so tests actually reduce real operational risk. DORA is about moving from a security design you can document to resilience you can demonstrate. A bank can have beautiful policies, redundant systems, and green audit reports, yet still fail when a major incident hits. DORA demands proof that critical services can survive real disruption. That means testing end-to-end, under stress, seeing where things actually break, and fixing those weaknesses quickly. Throughout this course, we'll spend less time on are we compliant on paper, and more on can we reliably stay up when it matters. Under DORA, testing works as a spectrum that builds upward in layers. At the base, you verify technical foundations, unit, integration, and system tests that show components work as intended. On top of that, security hardening validates your defenses through vulnerability assessments and penetration tests. Next, resilience and recovery testing asks, can critical services be restored within your targets during realistic disruption scenarios? At the top, end-to-end testing exercises full service chains, including third parties, to reveal cross-system and cross-provider weaknesses that no single team can see in isolation. Testing under DORA isn't about checking everything equally. It's about focusing effort where failure would really hurt. You start with assets and processes. Then ask, which ones support critical and important functions? These are the services whose disruption could stop payments, trading, or core customer operations. Signals of criticality include very high transaction volume, strong systemic impact beyond one firm, or heavy concentration of key clients. Once these functions are identified, you scope deeper testing, tighter controls, and stronger resilience measures around them first. For DORA, you need both functional stability and security hardening. One without the other is not resilience. Functional testing checks that systems behave as the business expects, even after changes and under invalid input. That protects availability and integrity of critical services. Security testing assumes the system works, then asks, can an attacker still break it? Vulnerability scans and penetration tests look for misconfigurations, weak components, and flawed integrations. In practice, you map each critical function to both types of testing and use the combined results to drive your DORA risk treatment and remediation plans. Scenario-based operational testing is about rehearsing disasters before they happen. Instead of only checking if individual systems work, you simulate severe but realistic events, like losing a data center or being hit by ransomware. The goal is to see whether the whole organization can survive and continue critical services within agreed time and data loss tolerances. This turns abstract resilience plans into hard evidence of what would really happen. When something breaks badly, two capabilities are really under test: business continuity and disaster recovery. The first step is survival. Can the business switch to an alternate site or manual workarounds and keep critical services running? That's BCP in action, focused on people, locations, and processes. In parallel, DR focuses on the technology, restoring systems from backups, validating data integrity, and bringing primary services back. Across this whole journey, the objective is simple: prove that recovery time and recovery point targets are actually achievable in real conditions, not just on paper. Advanced Threat-Led Penetration Testing, or TLPT, is DORA's most demanding testing requirement. It's essentially a highly realistic cyber attack, driven by real threat intelligence, but carried out in a controlled way. A red team of ethical hackers attacks, a blue team defends without knowing it's a test, and a white team oversees scope, risk, and safety. For significant entities, this exercise must be done periodically, following frameworks such as TBER-U. Under DORA, resilience extends beyond your own data centers and applications. It covers the entire service chain that delivers a critical function to customers. That means testing how your systems behave when a cloud region is unavailable, an API times out, or a critical SaaS platform is degraded. Wherever possible, you involve key third-party providers in exercises or realistically simulate their failure. The aim is to understand end-to-end impacts, validate workarounds, and ensure you can continue critical services even when important external providers are under stress or offline. To build a DORA-aligned testing plan, you don't start from tools, you start from data. Use your asset inventory, risk assessments, and change logs as inputs. From there, prioritize what to test based on a few key dimensions: how critical the service is, how exposed it is to threats, the transaction volumes it handles, and whether it's legacy or technically complex. Those factors drive a rolling multi-year testing roadmap from which you carve out a focused annual test plan that regulators can see is clearly risk-based. DORA expects testing to be tightly connected to governance. Test owners handle the technical side. They define the scope, run the tests, and document coverage, defects, and status. Senior management turns those findings into action. They decide on remediation priorities, allocate budget and people, and track whether issues are really closed. Above them, the management body or board is formally accountable. It approves the overall testing strategy, challenges key results, and checks whether tests actually reflect the entity's critical functions and risk appetite. Without this chain, tests remain technical exercises instead of drivers of resilience. DORA builds on the classic 3 lines of defense, but with sharper expectations for independence. The first line is where dev and operations teams run the systems and do day-to-day checks. They own the risk, so their testing is essential but never considered independent. The second line, typically risk and security, performs independent resilience and scenario testing, challenges assumptions, and validates whether controls really work. The third line, internal audit, provides assurance over the whole program. For advanced testing like TLPT, regulators expect accredited external providers or strictly independent internal teams to avoid marking your own homework. For DORA, documentation is your proof of reality. Supervisors don't just ask, "What do you do?" They ask, "Show me." Picture a chain. It starts with a defined risk. That risk is linked to a specific control. Each control is covered by one or more test plans with clear objectives and methodology. Then every execution of those tests produces evidence: logs, screenshots, tickets, reports. DORA expects this full traceability end-to-end, so anyone can follow the line from risk to control to test to concrete evidence. Remediation under DORA isn't a one-off project, it's a continuous loop. Tests or real incidents generate findings, which you classify by severity. High-risk items get clear owners, deadlines, and defined remediation actions. Once fixes are implemented, you retest to validate that the risk is actually reduced, not just assumed. The outcome of each cycle feeds back into your risk profile, thresholds, and controls. Over time, this loop sharpens prioritization, reduces recurring issues, and proves to supervisors that you have a living, measurable improvement process, not just documentation. As you move toward DORA readiness, use a few practical questions as your filter. Is your testing program clearly risk-based and anchored on critical business services? Do functional testing, security testing, and resilience or continuity testing form a single, coordinated plan rather than separate silos? Do you have a multi-year view for TLPT, not just one-off exercises? Are key third-party providers in scope for your scenarios? And finally, do you close the loop with structured board reporting and remediation tracking so actions are actually delivered?